Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen, joining in by Joyce Ng, and we're talking about the Oscar race here. A month, 30 days from now, basically, or when the Academy Awards are April 25th. We're recording this on March 25th, and it already feels over. Nomadland, Best Picture winner after winning PGA last night in a preferential ballot. Joyce? What is left to say about Nomadland cruising to
Not
Best Picture? It
much.
seems.
Yeah. So we have a month left. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll just be, 4 weeks of people like floating theories about possible upsets and, long shots possibly winning, which, we can't completely rule out, but it doesn't look good for
No,
anyone right now.
Nomadland has won everything it really needed to.
It's shown no weakness.
None among the
Yeah.
Gold Derby experts, 12 have it winning Best Picture, including both of us. Congratulations to us for predicting that right now. Minari, a distant second with only 2 experts predicting, and then Trial of Chicago 7 and Promising a Woman and Mank, all with 1 expert prediction at the moment. Doesn't mean that they will not change to Nomadland sooner rather than later. But yeah, I don't know. I thought Minari could maybe make a play. I guess we'll see. I still think it'll win SAG Ensemble, so I think
Yeah,
that'll
I
be
think
a
it'll
good
win the
boost for
ensemble.
it. I just
I
think there's not. I guess at this point in the race and voting hasn't even started yet, but I feel like it would need to have potentially more momentum than it does at the moment. You know what I mean? Like I feel like at this point last year in the race, there was definitely like Parasite momentum is really building, and maybe it's not gonna, it's gonna take down 1917 as the presumed front runner at the time. And I don't feel the same way with Minari. I just don't think it has that same kind of momentum yet. I mean, it doesn't mean it won't, and that maybe that. But I could only see one of those 2 movies winning. Chicago 7, I don't think he'll make it. Same with Promising a Woman. I don't know.
Yeah, like the problem with these, other contenders trying to topple Nomadland now is like none of them feel strong enough. Like they all have some great deficit because okay, so in 3 of the last 5 years, the PGA winner did not win Best Picture. Last year, 1917, La La Land, and The Big Short. But in all those races, it was competitive. Like The Big Short year, it was a 3-way race with Spotlight and The Revenant, and they all had, other things going for it. You knew they were like gonna win other Oscars. And then La La Land had Moonlight, like that was like the underdog, and it had like a locked acting win. And once it was moved to adapted for screenplay, you knew it was winning that. And last year, Parasite was the crowd pleaser. Everyone was sort of doubting it a little bit because, it's in Korean, foreign language, but it was the movie everyone loved and it hit everything too, basically. So there's not really like anyone like that this year. Like I think we all wanted to be something like, a lot of us wanted to be Minari, but it underperformed at Globes. It didn't get the other nominations like Parasite did, even though it's not eligible in drama. It didn't even make the BAFTA film long list. It wasn't eligible at WGA, so it couldn't even like win that and have like the SAG WGA combo. But I don't think it would have beaten Promising Young Woman anyway. So, and it's not guaranteed to win any category at the Oscars. Like the most you can say is supporting actress, but that is, completely up in the air still. And Trial Chicago 7, I think that was something, we've discussed in the fall as a possible Best Picture winner. And I know you predicted it at one point.
I did at one point, yeah.
But, as it's unfolded, it's also weak and it doesn't even have like last year with like Hollywood, it at least won like the Comedy Globe. And, a lot of us thought it would win the Drama Globe. And Nomadland won that. So Nomadland has everything.
Yeah.
So.
I would say a couple of caveats there too, or additional points to make on that. I think you're 100% right. The other thing is, I think in all those races where the PGA winner separated from Best Picture, there was more of, a quote unquote award season villain, let's say, or like a movie that had more demerits, I think, than nobody, like La La Land had a huge amount of backlash on like Twitter and stuff, even if people in hindsight
And
maybe still
especially
really
after it
like
won
it.
7 Globes,
Right.
7 for 7.
So there was like definitely like the movie that people wanted to see taken down a peg, and like you said, Moonlight was there was so much enthusiasm for Moonlight. Same with like last year, I think 1917 maybe wasn't like intensely disliked in certain corners like a La La Land was, but it's not. I think people were like looking to take that down, and certainly were like, another war movie. You know what I mean? It just didn't have like. I think there was more of it was more of an antagonist to Parasite, and then like Big Short that year and Revenant. Both those movies I think had like a lot of
They were a lot more
detractors,
divisive. Yeah.
a lot more divisive. And I think this year, Nomadland is actually like both like it's like I don't know, it's like the front
It's
runner that's
actually
also the
the underdog that's the
consensus.
front runner. Yeah.
Right. It's like it's such a small movie. It's totally unlike a movie that would win Best Picture, right? It doesn't have like it's like like two major stars, a bunch of non-actors, like a director that people really love, a small movie, very personal story. I don't know. I just feel like it's like it is the underdog, and it is like it's just like nobody is gonna. It almost is the consensus. It's like like this movie is good. No one thinks it's bad or like objectionable, really, to make like a anti-campaign for it. So it just feels like it is the best of all those worlds. And like you said, none of the other movies really have a ton of passion for them. I will say with Chicago 7, because like you said, I did predict it. I think if it was a normal Oscar season, I still don't think it would have won based on how this has played out. But I think if the Oscars were 6 weeks ago, like they were last year,
when they're over by now.
if they were long over by now, I think it just like I think it peaked at the wrong time because it came out in October. I think there was a lot of buzz around it like towards the end of the year, and I think that it's just too done. I just think it's like, Nomadland came out in February, right? It was like not, even though it was at all the festivals and people had been talking about it for 5 months, it was really more in the conversation in the last like 6 weeks. Same with Minari. And like that I think really helps those films because I think Chicago 7 people are like, oh, that came out a million years ago. And like you said, like it doesn't have without Sorkin as director, it just feels like it's not going to happen. So yeah, I don't know, but I do think Nomadland then ends up being like the choice. I guess then the question comes, which we've kind of talked about before this, was like, how many Oscars does it win? It had 6 nominations.
I mean, it could win all 6.
It could win all 6. Right now, it's favored to win 4, I believe, right? So it'll win Best Picture, Best Director Chloe Zhao is somehow even more of a slam dunk than Best Picture. Every Oscar, I think every expert, yeah, all 17 who have predicted have her winning. It would be a tremendous upset if she didn't win Best Director. Best Adapted Screenplay is another one that I think is a locked in victory. 13 experts have it winning there. And then Best Cinematography, it is the overwhelming favorite as well. The other 2 categories then are Best Editing and Best Actress. So Best Editing is running way behind in third between Sound of Metal and Chicago 7. I think we both have Sound of Metal winning that.
Yes, I do.
And I still think it could and probably will. But that would give, if that plays out, if she actually does win Best Editing, that would give her 4 Oscars to tie Walt Disney's record. And I wonder if that'll be enough of a momentum thing to make people be like, let's just let have Chloe Zhao win. I don't know.
I guess it depends on if people also know that she edited, because in the credits, their names aren't on the ballot.
Right.
So they would have to know she did it.
And they're not like, I feel like that's like the least promoted part of her narrative, right? Like it's like people know she wrote it and
she's gonna be
directed
the second woman to win directing,
right?
And Asian woman to win directing as well,
right?
So
yeah, that yeah,
it could. Yeah, there is a very real possibility that they just check it down the ballot, since it does seem like they really, at the very least, like this movie, since it's basically sweeping everything. And I think 4 it feels right for it, because in the preferential era, most of the top winners of the night have like 3 or 4. I think the last 3 years, the top winners only had 4 Oscars, and La La Land won 6. So if it went 6 for 6, it would match La La Land with Best Picture. So,
that would be nuts.
Yeah, editing, I have Sound of Metal because there is a very strong link with the sound categories and editing, and it's not, people make the Whiplash comparison with Sound of Metal just because they're drummers, but it's completely differently edited from Whiplash. But yeah, I have that, and I know a lot of people have Chicago just because it's so flashy and there's like quick cuts. but I kind of feel like it will just be blanked. Like I don't have it winning anything.
I kind of
Like
don't
a
have it winning
lone
anything
editing winner.
either.
Like the last time that happened was a Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, another Fincher year.
And I also think that like again, like people are not, I think with this with the Chicago Seven, I think it's like people still think of Aaron Sorkin as a writer, obviously not a director. And I think when you're talking about it as like a Best Picture, a performance movie nomination for Sacha Baron Cohen, right, and then like his screenplay, I just think like the editing, even if it's good and like it is a lot, and there is like a lot of like cross cutting, and so much of the momentum of the movie is just from like cutting from scene to scene, and he has a bunch of montages. There's at least I think three where it's like cutting between different scene like settings and everything, and it just like keeps building and building and building. So I do think the editing is actually quite good, but I just think mentally people are going to be like, no, they're not going to consider it like as an editing movie. I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's not the same as like Bohemian Rhapsody, your favorite movie,
Oh my
winning
gosh.
editing, because that also had a lot of editing, but people clearly love that movie, and I don't think people love this movie
Correct. I
passionately.
think that's the difference. And I think Sound of Metal, I would argue they really love, right? Like the
Yeah,
nominations it got, it really performed strongly, like I think we've talked about. So I was like, yeah, I think Sound of Metal could win. So that would leave Nomadland with 4. And then the other option would be Best Actress for Frances McDormand. She would already get a third Oscar for producing. So
yeah.
she'll have another Oscar already on Sunday, April 25th. Congratulations, Frances McDormand, in advance. But now we've got a potential for her to get a third Best Actress win and second in 3 years,
Which
uh,
is crazy.
which is really wild. And I would say very possible. I still have Carey Mulligan winning. It seems like most experts do. 13 experts so far have her winning. Frances McDormand, a distant second with Andra Day at 2. I still think it could happen. I don't know. I feel like, again, to go back to like my point about Chicago 7, I feel like the Promising Young Woman buzz really peaked in a normal Oscar year at the right time for it to do really well. It still did incredibly well at the nominations. It's the only one with, along with Nomadland, to get picture, director, actor, editing, screenplay, right? So like that's like a great group, and certainly a potential then for a Best Picture upset, I guess. But I just feel like her whole campaign really peaked early, and I don't know. I just think like she's not nominated at BAFTA, which was we all kind of assumed she would be. So she has to win at SAG. Golden Globes happened a million years ago. Nobody even remembers, and she didn't even win there. So
So maybe they forgot that she lost.
they could forget that she lost. She won a Critics' Choice, which also happened a million years ago. And nobody watched or really saw. So no offense to our friends at the Critics' Choice Awards. So I just feel like she needs to win at SAG to get people to remember, oh, there's Carey Mulligan, even however they're going to, even in their pre-taped Zoom video conference, like having her give a speech, I think would be really potent for her candidacy. And without that, if Frances McDormand ends up winning there, I could just see her kind of steamrolling through. But I don't know. Like, am I way off? What do you think?
No, I mean, like both actress races are the only open races right now, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And
Congratulations to Chadwick Boseman
and
and
Daniel Kaluuya,
Daniel
yeah.
Kaluuya for their acting wins, which seem pretty much a foregone conclusion at this point.
But yeah, actress, like, I mean, I have Carrie too, and I think when Promising Young Woman got those 4 Globe nominations, including drama film, you're like, oh, like Carrie's gonna win. And then it went with Andra, who is snubbed at SAG, but you could just blame that on late screeners because they love early screeners over there. And she didn't even make the BAFTA long list for actress. So she's been done since the Globes, because she lost Critics' Choice. But yeah, Carrie needs SAG, and I think if she gets SAG, I wouldn't say she's a lock like Chadwick or Daniel, but she would be a more solid front runner. I think I'm like emboldened by the fact that Promising Woman did well at BAFTA, and they have like the jury this year for the acting categories with like 7 to 12 people. So it's just like her luck that those 7 to 12 people assigned to Best Actress did not pick her. Like maybe if she got another jury, she would have been nominated.
Right.
But because her film did so well, I don't know, like maybe this is like not like a good correlation. Like they would still vote for her when they have the chance to, you know, like the British bloc. Like I still believed in The Father. Like I know a lot of people didn't, and I predicted it
Yes.
in like production design and editing and got in. You know, and so I feel like they could still come through for her.
Yeah, I mean, I can see. I definitely. It's not like I said. I'm still predicting her to win. I'm not going to after we hang up here. I'm not going to go change it. I'm going to
Yeah,
leave her
at
in
least
there.
not until
But
SAG. If she
at least
loses
not
SAG,
until SAG.
yeah,
But I would say the one thing I've noticed, at least in the like, it seems like the conversations around Promising a Woman have been focused solely on Emerald Fennell and not really as much on Carrie Mulligan's performance. It's the movie, and even though she is the movie, and the performance really does, I think, make a lot of the movie. It is definitely like Emerald Fennell's screenplay and her directing and all these different things that have been like, at least since the nominations, the thing that people have been really excited about more so than Carrie. And I would argue the same thing with Nomadland, because like, even though it's Frances McDormand's, the whole movie, it's like Chloe Zhao has been like the conversation point. But I just think that like, if that is the case, then I still think like Frances McDormand could win, because like more people like Nomadland, right? Seemingly, if they're going to have it win everything. And then maybe they're just like, well, I love Nomadland so much. The reason I love it is because Frances McDormand is so incredible in it. And it's like, I don't know. So I could see that happening, and I could see her like campaign kind of like paying off, especially this year when it's just is like,
it's the
obviously
perfect
like
year for it.
yeah, like the world is so different, and like people are just like maybe not as enthused at the idea of like campaigning in general. So like to see her like kind of do this in the way that she wants to do it, maybe that's appealing. That said, I still have Carrie Mulligan predicted, but I would
It's
not
just
be
interesting
totally
that
shocked.
like obviously like Nomadland is dominating, but it hasn't been able to pull Francis into like a big win yet.
Right.
You
So
know?
we'll see at SAG. I mean, like I definitely think. I mean, we had all said like uh Viola Davis would win SAG for a long time. That just seems like that has not going to
Yeah,
happen.
she was
So
just like a very early front runner because I think
right,
it was when people thought she was winning the Oscar, and obviously she's a SAG favorite because she won five in
right,
like 6 years or something.
exactly.
So,
So
but yeah, you know, I think that movie has just become the Chadwick Boseman show, and it didn't make Best Picture. So I mean, she could win SAG, I guess. I mean, I think the only person we can rule out is Amy Adams, but watch her pull an Emily Blunt now.
that
So
would no that. And then the other race then that we could talk about is supporting actress, which again is just like
okay,
chaos still. Every single nominee has a vote from the experts at Gold Derby, including Amanda Seyfried
I think this
and
is like the
Olivia
only
Colman.
category where that's true.
Yes, it seems like it is. I'm just scrolling quickly. It doesn't seem like any other categories have uh,
Every nominee.
every nominee. Some have four, but like not. Yeah, no. And I don't think Amanda Seyfried is going to pull it off, even though I think she is
No, I'm
quite
sorry,
good.
Amanda. Yeah, it's
So
I
who do you got for there still?
I think I think I still have Yoon Jung.
Hmm.
I think she's still number one, right?
She is, and I have her also.
Yeah.
And it seems like so her and Maria Bakalova are like kind of rising, and then Glenn Close right there, same amount of. So three experts have Maria Bakalova and Glenn Close, but I don't think either one of them are going to be able to pull it
I
off.
so I mean like Carrie, I think Glenn also needs SAG. But I don't know, like this race is so lawless that I could just see like one person winning each award, you know, like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like I think she could just win because she's like Glenn Close and people remember that she just lost 2 years ago to the same
Hmm.
person against who she's nominated this year.
Hmm.
Um I don't well, so let's talk about WGA the other day.
Yes.
That one adapted, which I switched to from One Night in Miami after it got snubbed in Best Picture.
Very
So
smart. We were saying, I think we were saying this in a meeting the other day, but man, Borat was really
it
close
was
to a
probably
Best
like
Picture, probably ninth. Yeah, I think it was. It was definitely right there. I think there is a huge amount of goodwill for Borat, so
Maria,
uh,
yeah.
I
I'm
could see
like, should I
Maria
switch to
winning.
Maria? I think she can win SAG. Like it's very populist.
And
So
also, it's like, I mean, again, like if we're going to talk about like the year, and if Oscars are representative of the year in film, uh, the biggest stories of the last like 15 months in it during this coronavirus pandemic and the incredibly long Oscar season. Like Maria Bakalova is definitely one of the biggest stories, right? Like her discovery and that movie were like humongously, especially in a year where there's not a lot of like blockbusters. Like that felt like a blockbuster, I think, in the way it was like kind of everybody was talking about it. So I could see them being like, I could see people being like, oh, we got to vote for her because it's just it's like such a no brainer in that regard. But I don't know. I still don't know if it could happen, but I guess we'll see. I don't know.
I mean, it would just be the first win of that kind. So
Yes.
like,
I can't even, what would it even be comparable to? Maybe like Marissa Tomei, My Cousin Vinny, I guess,
like
for like a
those are
straight
more
out
like classic,
comedy.
like yeah, comedies like her
Right.
like, but like I don't think she would have made it this far if it weren't for that Juliana scene. Juliana.
No, I don't think so at all. But
Yeah.
I think that like, I guess if I'm like critiquing the performance is incredible because it just is like, how does she not
Break.
break in
Like,
those? It's just is, and
yeah.
it's like to think that the thing I keep going back to is like they just had one for that, especially they just had one shot, right? You're not going to get to like like some of the when they're going to like when she goes into like a dress shop or like when they're doing even the babysitter, Jeansy Jones, right? I believe was her name. Uh, if that ends up being botched or something goes wrong there, those are regular people that no one's heard of. They could have just gone to another, like logistically, who knows? But it's like if she botches a scene in a dress shop, they could just go to another dress shop, right? Like it's like there's there's a little bit of a net, even if there's not really. With the Giuliani scene, that's it. They got one shot, and to have it like, and it's like the key point of the movie. It's just an incredible. That is an incredible performance. So I mean, I
Yeah,
would love
like
for her
it's
to win.
still it's acting because she
Right.
played a great character, like,
Correct.
and yeah, and like she held it like even when like Sasha comes in. So
And I
I
think
I
the other
think
thing,
that's what like
yeah,
puts it above like your average kind of mockumentary performance.
exactly. And the other thing is, I think like Sacha Baron Cohen again, comedy performances and comedy in general never really rates at the Oscars. So like I say this with like a big grain of salt, but I think he is pretty acknowledged as like one of the best comedy actors and certainly like improviser and like being able to think on his feet as a comedy performer, like working. Like I think if you talk if you ask like Seth Rogen or somebody like an actor known for comedy, they would say like, oh, Sacha Baron Cohen is like the greatest example of this. And she kind of matches him every scene and also like outdoes him in a way that I think like he even seems surprised by at times when you watch it. And I just think that like alone makes her like it's such an incredible performance. I'm talking myself into picking her, but I guess
I mean,
I
she's
still
the
don't
only
think
one of the five who hit everything. So
like I don't think I guess I'm just again because like I'm like docking it because it's a comedy and it just seems like how could this win? But maybe it will. That said,
like
if
I can see her winning BAFTA, like both SAG and BAFTA.
so if she wins SAG and BAFTA, then obviously I'll have to put her in as winning the Oscar. But I
It's
guess
so crazy that she lost the Globe in
it's
the
pretty
easy.
wild that she lost the Globe. I can't even believe that. But she was in the wrong category. So
I mean, like I love Rosamund Pike and I care a lot, but it's still crazy that
it
like
really
they
is.
submitted her there. Like I don't the Globes didn't move her, so it's
No,
yeah.
they submitted her in lead. But I think I guess if Yu Young doesn't win, then what does Minari win?
Nothing. There's a bunch of movies that could win nothing.
I have a hard. I mean, like so, like Judas and the Black Messiah would win one for Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah.
Sound of Metal could win two.
Yeah.
None for Chicago 7, and then possibly none for Minari.
Yeah.
One
So the
for
Father and
Promising
the
a Woman,
Father. So the
and The
movie
Father.
nominations, yeah. The Father, Judas, Minari, Nomadland, Sound of Metal, and Trial Chicago 7. Those have six.
So like half of those could win none.
Yeah. And Mank, I think it'll probably win production design, so I won't get Irishman.
It could win production design, but let's take a look. I mean, like I have it winning there as well, but I don't know. Ma Rainey. I mean, like everyone has it winning there. It's like 15 experts. I mean, I guess we'll see. I think Ma Rainey could compete there, but like you said, without the Best Picture nomination, it kind of maybe is just Chadwick and perhaps the makeup,
Yeah,
which I
and then
think is going to win.
I don't know how people think about like how many sets there are, but like Ma Rainey, it's like upstairs,
Right.
downstairs, and then
Yeah.
the streets outside.
So Mank could win one, but yeah, a lot of movies that could win none. That is, but I guess I've said this multiple times. Sometimes I have a hard time believing that a movie that everybody really likes will win none, but then like Lady Bird didn't win any, Irishman didn't win any, obviously. So it's like maybe Minari doesn't win any. That's it. It just gets its 6 nominations and goes home. And Maria Bakalova is an Oscar winner. So when Netflix premieres that, yeah, when Netflix premieres that Judd Apatow movie about the comics in a bubble, they can promote it with an Oscar winner, Maria Bakalova.
Oh,
that kind of thing.
Marvel already has like Academy Award winner Chloe Zhao ready for the Eternals.
Oh yeah, for sure. And they're also probably trying to cast, Maria Bakalova in something. Maybe, who knows?
Phase 5.
So then, and everything. I mean, like the other one we need to talk about was Promising Young Woman and Chicago 7 original screenplay. Emerald Fennell, like you said, won at the WGA. We all predicted that, I think, and I think she's gonna kind of cruise through to win Best Original Screenplay. But I could see Sorkin sneaking it in, but I think even Aaron Sorkin, if you asked him in private, maybe would say he doesn't expect to win. I go back to his Golden Globe speech. He won that.
Oscar directing speech.
He gave his Oscar speech at the Golden Globes, and he also spoke like a person who expected not to speak again during award season. If you recall, he had a nice group of people in his, his pod of people, seemed like, in his family and assistants. They're all dressed up in his lovely living room, and he gave a Best Director / I'm not going to get to do this again speech. So, and it was great. He shouted out, Emerald and Chloe and Regina King, as female directors that his daughter was looking up to, and he gave credit to the people behind Chicago 7 and everything, and it was a nice speech. And I just think like that was it. That was the extent of probably his speechifying this award season.
Yeah, like I mean, I think Emerald's gonna win BAFTA as well. This is kind of just a mirror, or not mirror, I think it's like a repeat of last year, when like Globe favorites like Quentin Tarantino and Aaron Sorkin won their one screenplay category, and they share the record 3 wins in a category. And then it was Parasite, and now maybe Promising Moment the rest of the way.
Right. Yeah, I could see that happening for sure. And that's it. And we've a month, and that's a great Oscars. I guess quickly about the Oscars, did we talk about the show itself? So no host, it seems like.
No host and no Zoom as of now, and everyone is very, very angry.
Right. So I like the idea of no Zoom, but I understand the critiques of it because a lot of people who are coming from international places aren't even able to because of the travel restrictions. Now, I guess we'll see if that ends up being, again, the Oscars are not for another month. Things seem to change pretty rapidly. So who knows, by the time the Oscars happen, maybe Emerald Fennell will be able to come from London.
She's going to swim the Atlantic.
Right. But maybe who knows? I mean, maybe like they'll say like in 2 weeks, like, oh, you could try. I have no idea. I don't think anybody does. So that's probably why. But I just have a hard time believing they're going to have an Oscars without Emerald Fennell there, especially when she's a favorite to win. It just would be peculiar.
I understand they want people there, and I guess like that letter, it sort of reads like an ultimatum, like like, I mean, obviously it's not going to change whether they win or not, because like the producers aren't picking the winners, but like I think it's an incentive for them to come, but then it's just like every single country has different like lockdown restrictions and quarantine rules, and like the UK, I think they just started a new one today that lasts until like May 17th, because they have variants there, and like you can't leave unless it's like essential business or work. And I don't know, is the Oscars
I mean, I will say, like, if it's
tangential to work, but I
get the feeling that they'll make exceptions based on how things have gone.
Like, people working, so then it's like they have to leave like the bubble and then like quarantine when they get to LA, and then after one night there they go back to set, but they have to quarantine before getting on set. So it's like logistically and financially it's a nightmare, so yeah, I'm sure they're gonna make some concessions.
I bet you they will, but I think they're gonna I think the concessions are gonna be like they'll make an exception for Emerald. I just think like the way the world works, they're gonna just be like,
I mean,
we're gonna make exceptions for these people.
Allow Zoom. Like people are still gonna go, like especially like people who live in LA or like in the US. Like
Of
they're
course.
still gonna be in like Union Station. It's just let the people who are not in the country Zoom.
Right. So the other thing I'll be curious too is like, so no host. I read one of the things I read was like it's going to be like they're going to kind of think of it like a movie. Did you read that? That the direct, like they hired Glenn Weiss
Oh
to
yeah.
direct, and the idea was like it's going to be like a movie. Now, I'll be very curious to see how that whole thing works. I have no idea. I can't even imagine it. I remember when Soderbergh got hired as a producer. He's producing this year with a
And
couple
then
other
he let
people.
them use that like incredible
Sergeant Pepper outfit. Yeah, awesome. But I remember looking back at old interviews he did, and like a couple years ago, he did one about the Oscars, and his idea was to make it much more like a seated kind of like Golden Globesy kind of like throwback thing instead of like an auditorium. So I think like having an
at Union Station. So
right. So I think like doing it there and like having like people at tables is interesting. They're gonna have Questlove be like the DJ, I guess. Like he's the music director, so that's kind of cool. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I'll be curious to see how it plays out. But
yeah, because
yeah, I'll
they're
be
also
curious to see
gonna
who
have
even
like
shows up.
yeah, well, I assume like most like American nominees will be there. I
Frances
mean,
McDormand show up.
I hope she actually doesn't because I kind of love like when they've like every award show so far, like they've been using the same shot of her from Nomadland.
Yes.
Like the five. So it'll be kind of, I mean, like she doesn't really need to if she doesn't think she's gonna win actress. And you know, she's one of the producers, but like I feel like she'll just let like Chloe, you know, give the speech when it wins Best Picture.
Yeah. I guess we'll see. I think if she wins SAG, that'll increase her opportunity to show up. I would say because I think she maybe will
Yeah,
win.
but the other
So
thing is like in that letter that the producers wrote, it's like they had like a dress code, and like you don't tell Frances McDormand how to dress. Like she has dressed
no.
for these shows, but she's also worn like flip flops too.
Also, that surprised me because, like you said, Steven Soderbergh is dressed as Sergeant Pepper in like all
I
his
know.
things.
I
So
was
I
like,
was like, I would
right.
wonder, I would love to know who is responsible for what part of that producer's letter
I
because I
feel
don't
like all
think
the parentheticals were Steven.
yes, and I don't think like yeah, I can't imagine the dress code would be very important to him. I don't know. I think like people also like from a fashion standpoint, the more like the biggest fashion win of like this year was like Jason Sudeikis' hoodie, right? Probably at the
I think
Golden Globes.
everyone
So I'm
just
like,
wore that hoodie to the Oscars.
right. I'm just like, that's kind of like the vibe people are going for right now. So I don't know. We'll see. But and I yeah. So Nomadland again. I feel like we end this every week with the same.
Nomadland, we have
Congratulations
a
to
month left
Nomadland,
to
and
say no.
congratulations to Chloe Zhao. Next week we have next weekend, this weekend nothing, the next weekend SAG Awards. So at least we'll have more stuff to expect to talk about in the coming days. But Joyce is always fun. Thanks again.
See ya.